Hey everybody. So lately we've been talking a lot about argumentation, right? And what it means that people argue in English fields, in the humanities fields. Recently we read Lord of the Flies, right? And we've read these different sources now as a class, and we know that some people think Piggy is an extremely sympathetic character, that we should feel bad for him, and that we should learn more about human emotion and compassion from reading this book. Other people think, on the whole other side of the issue, that this shows how really animalistic human life can be, how much we can be like animals in these natural settings, and what we can learn about our true selves from observing this, and that ultimately we shouldn't feel sympathetic for Piggy. We should understand how human life works, right? Outside of civilization. So different people have different opinions. And now we have opinions too, because we've read the book, we have our own ideas about what it means, right? So now we're preparing to write papers. We want to write a paper about the Lord of the Flies, what we think about it, what we think about the articles we've read versus our own opinions. And so always when we've written in middle school, what we know about writing is this idea of a 5-paragraph essay, right? That we introduce the topic, we explain our opinion 1, background evidence 2, background evidence 3, and then we conclude. Well, how do we do that when we want to get in these other sources, right? There's all this new information, and we're not just talking about our own views now, because what we're learning is that it's great to have your own view, but ultimately that doesn't really matter until you get your voice out there. You talk with other people about it, you see what their ideas are, and then you begin to make a conversation between yourself and other people. Your opinions begin to be part of a larger conversation. And that's what we want, right? We want our ideas to matter. So how are we going to get away from this 5-paragraph essay? How are we going to learn how to write these really in-depth papers where we begin to look at other people's opinions? Well, believe it or not, we're going to start by understanding it through mathematics. Something that doesn't happen a lot in English class, but math is a really cool way to understand how to compute a lot of information at once, right? So you guys are young, you're just getting into algebra, all the really cool things that you can do with math. Algebra is my favorite type of mathematics. Calculus is cool, but algebra is my favorite. So in algebra, there's this thing. You guys probably haven't learned about it yet. I promise you will before you leave high school, but it's called a matrix. So when I was doing structural engineering in college, a matrix is something I used all the time. Because when you're building a building, there's all this information, just tons and tons of information about the three-dimensional physics and the material science that has to go into computations. And so you use this thing called a matrix. That way you can set it up with lots of numbers. You put in a bracket, you write your numbers in, whatever they may be. They report to real-world values, different things. The matrix can be any size based off if you need it to be really big because you have a lot of information, or really small because you only have a little bit of information, as small as only 2 by 2. But you fill it out with this array of numbers, this array of information that reports to all these different things, and that way you can consider them all at once. You can compute them all at once and handle a lot of information, a complex amount of information at once. So why are we talking about this? Well, we do the same thing in the English class. We get rid of the numbers because we want to step away from the mathematics. That's not our language. Mathematics is the language of science. We're here to use the English language. And because we like everything to be nice and organized as we begin to write our papers, we go ahead and we take this, we draw some lines, we turn it into a rectangle or a square, whichever it needs to be. Give it some grid lines so we can keep things organized as we put in our values. Some of these, very simple. And then we have what's called a synthesis matrix. And this is how we can begin to think about writing papers in a new way, about putting a lot of ideas together and then letting our ideas dictate the form that our paper will take rather than the 5-paragraph model. So what do we do once we've set this up? Well, we put our complex amount of information in it. We put our array of sources that we've gathered. So how do we do that? Well, across the top here, we're going to go ahead and put all the sources that we've already read, because we know we want to get them in there, right? So first and foremost, you have your opinion from when you read the book. So there's me. And then we read the first article. So we have Article 1, the second article, Article 2, and Article 3. So on this top part, we'll call it the x-axis, we put all of the different scholars, all the different opinions that are out there. And here on the y-axis, the left side, we're going to put all of our research questions, right? We're interested in Piggy. We're interested in when they hunted the boar. What was the significance of that? What's the significance of the conch shell? All these different research questions we have that we want to answer in our paper, the things that matter to you. So we put research question 1, Piggy. Research question 2, conch shell. All these different things, whatever you're interested in, it can go on as much as you want to in either direction because it can handle any amount of information. So once we set this up, it's really easy. We just go through and we think about it. What's my opinion on Piggy? Write it here. What's Article 1's? Here. Article 2 here. Article 3 here. And then we're able to see at one moment all of the information on that source, and we can begin to think about how we might structure the paragraph to talk about all these different things at once, how we can put our opinion in conversation with other people's opinion. So that's something we're going to work on a whole lot in the upcoming weeks. We're going to talk about this idea, new ways of writing papers. But for tomorrow, we're just going to work with the synthesis matrix, how it's filled out, how you can do it, how we can go through and put scholarship in conversation with it. So for tomorrow, make sure you come ready to teach me about the synthesis matrix, what goes on the different axes, what it's used for, what we gain, and what we're able to do by it. And tomorrow, we'll have a fun activity where we fill one out and talk about what else we can do with it. So I'll see you tomorrow in class.